sale, who bought it? There are some reports saying the billionaire businessman Femi Otedola did. Some other reports say the federal government of Nigeria did. But I want to get clarity today, and for that I am joined by Mr. David Adonri. He's the executive vice chairman of High Cap Securities. He's joining me on the phone for the next 2 minutes. Mr. Adonri, can you explain to us what's happening with the sale of 10 billion shares of First Hold Company for about 311 billion naira?
Thank you very much. Good afternoon, Hilary, and all the listeners. Yeah. So I don't know whether the 2 minutes you have given to me will be sufficient for me to give some insight.
Let's do it for 2 minutes. Maybe some other time I'll bring you to the studio. Let's see if we will X-ray that and what it means for First Bank, and people who have their monies in First Bank and other investors.
Okay, so it was a major deal, a major transaction on the outstanding shares of First Bank, and the transaction was capable of altering the ownership structure of First Holdco as the bank group structure states now. So it raised some eyebrows. A lot of retail investors were worried, and there were several speculations as to who the beneficiary of that bulk transaction was. From the explanation given by the bank only had to clarify that the chairman of the bank, Femi Otedola, was not instrumental to or a party to that transaction. But however, the sellers were clearly stated as Barbican company where Batudeco is the majority owner, together with Legal Assurance where Dukale is the majority owner. So one thing that has been made clear is that those two huge or major shareholders in the bank had divested. And eventually news filtered into the market that the beneficiary of that divestment was an investment management company called RC Investment Management Company, which some stakeholders have scrutinized and linked to a capital market operator, the CMO. So that is the item. So many things, so many conspiracy theories were ringing around that transaction. But however, the market platform is available for both retail investors, institutional investors, high net worth investors. So you can have little transactions taking place on normal basis, on daily basis, and then you can also have these kind of bulk transactions that can alter the ownership structure of a listed company happen. That's the purpose of providing such a transparent platform. The only thing is for the transactions to be disclosed to the investing public. So is that disclosure that apparently elicited some suspicion initially, but which has already been cleared. So with Batudeco and Dukale out, and then we don't know the status of the new beneficiary who has to be now.
So I think that is something we'll have to discuss maybe next week, Mr. Donry. I think I'd like you to join me. Let's discuss that. Let's find out how that might have altered the shareholding of First Holdco. I mean, how many shares Femi Otedola still has, and who's really behind the new buyers of the shares that Mr. Dukale and Batudeco shed off. Thank you so much for your time this Monday morning.
Okay. It's a pleasure indeed. Thank you very much, Ilavi. Bye.
And that was Mr. David Adonri, the Executive Vice Chairman of High Cap Securities, a stockbroker, talking to me just now.
The big issues.
And our big issue today is about taxation. I know you'll say, Hillary, we've been on this taxation thing for a long time. Yes, we've had a presidential advisor talk about it, but it's something that's complex and it's something that affects so many of us as individuals, as big businesses and as small businesses. And today on the show, we'll be focusing on small businesses, how it affects you. You know, you own a business in Balogun markets, you run whatever business you run, how does it affect you? It's just less than 6 months until the new tax laws take effect. They're taking effect on January 1, and many small business owners are wondering how to prepare ahead of that. Today, I have with me Mr. Emmanuel Ogiaga. He's a tax expert, a tax consultant, and he's a fellow of the Institute of Chartered Accountants of Nigeria. He's a member of the Chartered Institute of Taxation of Nigeria, and he's a registered capital markets professional. Glad to have you here, sir.
Thank you very much for having me.
So if you can move closer to the microphone. So yeah. So I want to start with this. Can you give my listeners, we have millions of listeners across Lagos. The Uber driver, the woman who has a radio in Balogun markets, the jewelry seller, and different people. Can you give us an overview of the laws, the new tax laws, and what the Nigerian government plans to achieve with these changes?
Thank you very much. So the new tax laws really that the president just signed really repealed over 10 tax laws that we have in the country, from the value-added tax, tertiary education tax, police trust fund levy, and a whole lot of other taxes in Nigeria. So the government is really looking at how complex taxation really has been in Nigeria and trying to make it more simplified in order to encourage compliance by taxpayers in Nigeria, because we have a lot of people that run in the gig economy that really are not captured, because a lot of them are really using their personal bank account to trade. You just mentioned people in Balogun market. A lot of them are using a couple of payment wallet system to receive income from their various customers. So the government really needs to, see all these economic transactions, because the whole objective really of generating revenue really is for the government to get data, and that data would help the government to really provide public goods and services. Because if the government do not know the number of SMEs operating, take for instance in Lagos Island local government, they are unable to really plan adequately for public goods and services. So if we look at the new tax law that the president just signed, it's trying to bring about simplification, harmonizing the various tax laws. So we could see that the personal income tax really, in support of the Minimum Wage Act that was signed in 2024, which grants people earning 70,000 per month as gross salary exemption from income tax. But if you look at this law, it says the first 800,000 your annual income, it will be taxed as zero. So effectively, you are not paying any tax.
Yeah.
So that really sends a message to SMEs, and it would encourage them to really come forward and file your returns with the government and ensure that yes, you are not paying any taxes, but the government is getting those information of your economic activities, and it will help the government really to to provide public goods and services. One other impressive change that the new tax law brought is the issue of value-added tax. If you look at the value-added tax, really, a lot of companies pay 7.5% on their sales. And in determining VAT payable in line with the law, it's actually your output VAT minus your input VAT. Your input VAT is basically from your purchases. So when you look at it, the previous law before the new law the president signed, service-oriented organizations do not get, this benefit of offsetting output VAT from input VAT. So therefore, they will be paying quite a higher sum, even though we all know that value-added tax is really transferred to the final consumer. At the end of the day, most businesses don't see this VAT as the sums that they've charged, because why? One, they've really not, charged their customer, because the average woman selling in Balogun would not want to be, to make herself in a position where she's not competitive. So she sells her goods, without including VAT in it. So a host of other benefits in the tax law that really encourages people to really come forward. Because for me, where I see it as the government getting data on people's economic transactions, which would also help them to provide public goods and services. Because the overall responsibility of the government is to take care of the welfare of the community and the environment. So for me, the new tax law is a game changer for us. We are just looking forward to January 1, where the regulators, the Nigerian Revenue Service now, from Federal Inland Revenue now, Nigerian Revenue Service would ensure the operationalization of most of this tax law, because a whole lot of changes need to be, made practical in terms of the practicality, the application. If you look now, a lot of people are applying for visas and you need your tax clearance. So if you are resident in Lagos State, take for instance, you need to have paid your taxes in the last 3 years in order to get, your tax clearance. And now the Lagos State issues tax clearance not in the digital form, in a paper-like tax clearance. So it clearly states your income you've earned, your tax you've paid. So if you've gone to make a representation to the embassy that you earn 20 million naira per annum, and on your tax clearance certificate, it's not reflected there. So obviously you have insured yourself in the foot. So the government needs to get those revenue, because it's the obligation of every citizen of Nigeria.
So I forgot to mention that you're also the engagement partner of Gbenga Badejo and Company, and that means from January 1, I expect there will be a lot of business for you. So many big companies will be coming to you for your services. But beyond that, I know the new tax laws raises the threshold for tax exemption for businesses, right? Can you talk us through this, and what exactly with the new tax law, what qualifies as a small business in Nigeria?
Okay, thank you very much. That's a good question. If we look at the CAMA, Companies and Allied Matters Act 2020 that was signed, it actually repealed the previous act. The definition of a small company in that act really was companies that operate and earn revenue per annum of not more than 120 million and below.
Okay.
Also holding net assets of about 60 million and below. And there are a couple of other characteristics. Says, you do not need to hire an external auditor to audit your books in order to file. Because for you to file your returns with Federal Inland Revenue, you need to come with an audited financial statement. Then another exemption there was the fact that you do not need, it's not compulsory for you to hire a company secretary. So that was more like giving people running small businesses like some form of relief to come forward to ensure compliance, because you need to file your returns with CAC, you need to file your returns with the Federal Inland Revenue. So basically those were incentives. Now, to the Finance Act, not to the new tax law that becomes, effective in 1st of January 2026. Finance Act defines small companies as those that, their revenues were under 25 million per annum. So 25 million and below. So you could see the difference between that, the definition of small company under CAMA and the definition under the Finance Act, which actually modified the company income tax and a whole lot of other taxes in 2020, 2021, and 2022. So I believe that really informed the team to align, because now in the new tax law, the exception threshold is now 100 million. So if you run your business in Nigeria and your total annual revenue is under 200 million, you are exempted from VAT.
Under 100 or 200?
100 million.
100 million. Yeah.
100 million. So you are exempted from that. Now, a lot of people just hear exemption and just say, I don't need to interact with the government again. No, that's not what the law says.
So explain to us.
Exactly. So good. Take, for instance, you're exempted from VAT. That does not stop you from filing your VAT returns. So in filing your VAT returns, you tell the government, I've made 100 million in 2024, take for instance, and the VAT ensuing from this income I've generated is 0. So you file it and it goes in. So the government knows the number of small businesses and what they are generating. It helps the government to generate data that will help them to take decisions for the betterment of, for public good, because they need that information. So people don't just think, you're exempted from these taxes. You do not need to interact with the government, but that's not what the law says. So you need to file your returns for company income tax. You need to file your returns for value-added tax and other taxes as it were. So that's really the threshold. Before now, it used to be small companies 25 million, medium-sized company from 25 to 100 million. So if your revenue threshold is between 25 million and 100 million, before the law was signed, you would pay tax rate of 20%. So for small companies, they were fully exempted. Now, there's one other thing I would like to add. A lot of the time when the laws are really signed, the operationalization of those laws is a challenge, because there are a whole lot of architecture and infrastructure you need to design. Because now in Nigeria, filing tax, especially for corporate companies, is done digitally. You don't need to bring your hard paper into the company, into FRS to file your return. So it's done digitally. So those guys who build those programs and software need to understand the law. And I'm sure that's why the government, in its own understanding, decided to make the effective date 1st of January 2026.
So let me ask this. I know there are also some products that are now VAT exempt. So if I'm a small business owner and I run a business that deals in those products, essential products like they are called, what interaction do I need to have with the government?
Yeah.
Because I don't need to file tax and I make less than 100 million naira per annum. What's my relationship? What do I need to do with an accountant or with the government?
Okay, so good. So since you're categorized as a small business, you need to register with the Federal Inland Revenue for payment, for filing your VAT return and your company income tax. All it just takes is for you to walk into the Federal Inland Revenue, fill a couple of forms and submit it.
And by the way, the Federal Inland Revenue will become the Nigerian Revenue Service by January 1.
So beautiful. Even before the law was really signed, there was an integration between the Corporate Affairs Commission with the FRS, in the sense that once you incorporate a company, your tax identification number is clearly, part of the certificate of incorporation. So that tells you that there have been communication between the entity that incorporates the organization and the entity that registers company for tax. So all you just need to do is come in and they open a file for you. So for you as a small business owner, you need to register for VAT. You need to ensure that the invoices you issue out bears your value-added tax supplier's number, your tax identification number, your name, your address, and a whole lot of other things. Yet you still state that you don't charge VAT. You're a small business, so it's easy for the government to identify you. Now, if you look at the tax law that was just signed, there's something called fiscalization of the supply of goods and services. That's for VAT. So government is starting with big organizations, people running turnovers in the range of $1 billion and above. So they are saying they are going to design a platform that you would, generate your invoices from. So the government is already seeing what you're making even before the due date. So all the government is doing, just waiting for you to, remit those revenue into their coffers. So basically, those are the things you need to be aware of.
So what would you say there are so many micro and small businesses in Nigeria that are not registered, right, with the authorities. Would they be in trouble by January 1?
Okay, that's a very good question again. For me, I think I will look at it from the point of view of compliance. At our firm, we say non-compliance is very expensive. Compliance is not expensive. So why do we say that? If you look at the laws currently, initially when you grown foul of the law in terms of company income tax, you pay 25,000 naira in the first month. Subsequently, you pay 5,000. Now it's 100,000 naira for first default, 50,000 naira subsequently. So if you default for a year, that's about 600,000 naira. So if you're a stay-at-home mom that sells cakes,
Yeah.
business
like that.
Exactly. So you don't want to wait for the government to send you an email saying that in 2025 you made this income, your tax is 1 million naira. Meanwhile, you don't have that money anywhere, and you're now facing all sort of restrictions and embarrassment from the government because they'll be writing you emails, because the law has granted the authority the right to write you emails and send you assessment for you to make payment, because now they are going to be integrating the national identity card number to the tax system. If you look at your international passport when you go for renewal, you see your NIN there. So the government is aware of all your economic activities. So you are better off, engaging a tax consultant or coming forward to make your returns, because the government is seeing the data, is seeing it. You can't run away from the government beginning from 2026.
And I also realize that even if you try to run away, you'll get into trouble when you now want to apply for some services like your passport. You want to apply for a passport, you want to apply for a driver's license, and some of those things. The government will most likely ask for your tax returns according to what I've seen so far from the laws. But I want to find out, so you mentioned let's say the stay-at-home mom who bakes cakes and sells to people or makes clothes and sells. What would you suggest as the right legal structure to put in place? Sole proprietorship, limited liability company. What exactly does that person need to do? Person listening to me right now.
Beautiful. That's a good question. A lot of people don't want to pay taxes, really. So for me, I would I would say your long-term goals would really determine the legal structure you want to put in place. So if you're a stay-at-home mom and you really don't have a long-term goal to ensure that maybe you are the top 5 cake supplier in Nigeria, you can as well go for a business name. And you know that whatever tax you need to pay on whatever income you earn will be paid as, as is what they call personal income taxes. So whatever income your business earn as a business name, you don't pay corporate taxes because you are not a corporate entity, you are a business enterprise. So
also the person will not pay the personal income tax rates.
Exactly, because all your profits. So if you make 20 million, for instance, and you reside in Lagos, so obviously you need to pay that profit is automatically your income. So the Lagos Internal Revenue Service will be looking to get its revenue from you with respect to that. So for me, if your long-term goal is to grow, really, you can start as a limited liability company and ensure that compliance is done at the right time, because non-compliance is expensive. And sometimes just to put in a returns that, I made 1 million naira, my VAT is 0, and submit, you can do it in 60 seconds on the Tax Promax portal. You can do it in 60 seconds. You put in the amount.
More talk, news, and sports after this.
This mid-year, the Solar World Electric Technology Limited is giving you more than just power. We are giving you comfort. From now till the 25th of July, 2024.
99.3 Nigeria Info. We are more than just radio. Subscribe to our YouTube channel at Nigeria Info FM. Check us out on Facebook at Nigeria Info 99.3. Follow us on Twitter at Nigeria Info FM and on Instagram at Nigeria Info FM Lagos for live updates as it happens. 99.3 Nigeria